Yes, my friends, something has happened in the AFC North that could change everything and could reverberate all the way to Berea, shaking the foundations of the Cleveland Browns. No warning, no whispers, just boom, a devastating NFL trade in the dead zone between minicamp and training camp. The Pittsburgh Steelers just dropped a bombshell. Minkah Fitzpatrick and a draft pick are out, and in, Jonnu Smith and Jalen Ramsey. And that's not even the most intriguing part for Browns fans. Because the real question isn't just what the Steelers are doing, it's what this chaos could mean for the Browns. There's a new power play forming in Miami, and Cleveland could be in the middle of it. Let's break it down. But before we go any further, hit the like button if you've been a Cleveland Browns fan for 20 plus years. It's great to see fans of all ages. There are people here who were at the first game. If possible, comment like this: Go Browns! Let's go to the Super Bowl. Start with Pittsburgh. They're building what looks less like a football team and more like a reunion tour. Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. Jalen Ramsey at corner. Jonnu Smith reunited with Arthur Smith from their Atlanta days. And it reeks of desperation. Like a team trying to squeeze one last drop of greatness out of aging stars. Mike Tomlin and company are all in for 2025, and maybe beyond, with players well past their prime. Now consider this. The Steelers haven't had the same starting quarterback in week 1 for 5 years straight. Ben Roethlisberger, Mitch Trubisky, Kenny Pickett, Justin Fields, and now Aaron Rodgers. That's not a QB carousel. That's a QB circus. And amid that chaos, TJ Watt, arguably the face of the franchise, sitting in a contract limbo that could erupt into a holdout. So while the Steelers swing for the fences with a roster built like it's 2017, the Browns, Ravens, and Bengals are quietly watching from the sidelines. Because here's the thing, when a division rival throws this many chips on the table, it matters. And it matters even more when those moves potentially weaken their defense, shift their identity, and invite internal drama. But let's get to the meat of why this blockbuster may directly involve Cleveland. Jonnu Smith leaving Miami creates an immediate, glaring need for a starting caliber tight end in that offense. And who better fits the bill than a Pro Bowl talent who played his college ball at the University of Miami? Yes, David Njoku. Here's where it gets fascinating. Andrew Berry, Browns GM, is not an emotional decision maker. We've seen this. Nick Chubb, beloved by the fan base, was not brought back. Berry operates on logic, value, and future flexibility. And if there's any GM willing to answer the phone for a fair value offer, it's him. David Njoku is turning 30 soon. He's had injuries, and he's heading into the final year of his deal. Cleveland also just drafted a tight end in the 3rd round, who's quietly waiting in the wings. That's not a coincidence, that's insurance. So if Miami calls and offers a 4th round pick, Berry probably says no. But if they get desperate, if they're serious about a postseason run and come knocking with a 3rd rounder, or better, suddenly you're listening. Suddenly, you're thinking about draft capital, flexibility, and long-term roster building. Now, let's pause and appreciate who Njoku is. He's not just a player. He's Cleveland. He's a tone setter, a fan favorite, and that's what makes this potential decision so delicate. Because even if Berry is just playing Moneyball, the locker room and the fan base feel the weight of losing a guy like him. But again, this isn't Madden. This is the NFL. And if the Browns don't believe they have the quarterback of the future on the roster right now, then what's the point of keeping a high-priced tight end just for sentiment? Dylan Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders, Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco, none of them scream long-term franchise QB. If the Browns aren't going all in for 2025, then maybe, just maybe, trading Njoku now, while his value is still high, makes strategic sense. That's the tension. That's the line Andrew Berry is walking. You either get something valuable now for a player approaching the edge of his prime, or you hold tight and hope he helps lift a team with unclear quarterback direction to respectability. And if Miami's willing to pay more than market value, Berry would be foolish not to at least entertain it. And Njoku, for his part, could be open to the move. South Beach? Familiar territory. A team on the rise. It wouldn't be hard to imagine his agent playing a behind-the-scenes role to nudge this possibility forward, especially if Njoku sees the writing on the wall in Cleveland, a roster that might not be positioned to compete in 2025, and a front office unafraid to move veterans for future assets. So here's the question, Browns fans, what would you do? Is it time to cash in on Njoku, or do you keep the heart of the team beating strong in the locker room, even if the head says trade? Let's dive deeper now, because the real stakes for the Cleveland Browns go far beyond just one player or one trade. This is about the direction of the entire franchise, about whether the front office is still in win-now mode or quietly resetting under the surface. And what happens with David Njoku could be the clearest signal yet. Think about the timing. This isn't March. It's not the draft window. It's not free agency frenzy. This is the calm before the training camp storm. If Miami wanted Njoku back in spring, they could have made a deal before the draft, maybe even used a pick they still had at that point. But this would be a midsummer move, a calculated, targeted strike. And for Cleveland, that changes everything. Because if you trade Njoku now, you're not getting help this year. You're getting a draft pick that won't touch the field until 2026. And that matters. If you believed this was a playoff caliber roster, that this was the year, you wouldn't even consider it. You'd hold Njoku tight, ride his leadership and production, and push for a wild card spot or more. But if Andrew Berry's reading the tea leaves differently, then this is exactly the kind of move he would make. And let's not forget, this is the same front office that let Nick Chubb walk. Not because he wasn't beloved, not because he wasn't productive, but because they believed his best days were behind him and the team needed to pivot. So why would Njoku, also approaching 30, also with a track record of injuries, be immune? It's a brutal side of football, but it's the truth. Longevity doesn't protect you. Sentiment doesn't win championships. And Andrew Berry? He doesn't run this team like a fan. He runs it like a strategist, a poker player, a cold, methodical architect trying to build a roster that can sustain success, even if it means tearing down parts of it along the way. The bigger picture here is about identity. The Browns are in a strange, uncertain place. The quarterback situation is unresolved. The offensive vision still feels transitional. Are they reloading, rebuilding, or just stuck in the middle? The answer to that question might lie in whether they're willing to move a core piece like Njoku now and what they demand in return. So let's game it out. If Miami picks up the phone and says, "We'll give you a fourth," you hang up. Too low. Doesn't help this year. Doesn't reflect the value Njoku brings. But if they offer a third, or even better, a second, now the conversation shifts. That's the kind of pick that helps reset a roster. That's the kind of asset that lets you move up next draft or stash a blue chip player for the future. And here's the kicker. You've got Jordan Fan in the building already. A third-round pick, quietly developing behind the scenes. Maybe he's not ready to start week 1, but if you move Njoku, you're not going to war without a tight end. You're just handing the reins a little earlier than expected. And if Fan flashes like the front office hopes, that could justify the move entirely. There's also the locker room dynamic to consider. Njoku is respected. He's a leader. Trading him midsummer sends a message, not just about the business of football, but about the organization's direction. Players notice that. Coaches feel that. It ripples. And if you're not careful, it can erode trust. But here's the other side. If you're a player in that locker room and you see Berry holding firm for a premium offer, refusing to sell low, that says something too. It says the team has standards. It says they won't be pushed around. And if Njoku does get traded, it'll be because someone made them an offer too good to refuse, not because they were desperate to offload him. Which brings us back to the Steelers. Their chaos is Cleveland's opportunity. While Pittsburgh goes all in on a patchwork of past their prime stars, the Browns can play the long game. Build smart, be surgical. Let other teams take the headlines while they focus on sustainability and depth. And if that means flipping a veteran like Njoku for a top 75 pick, that's the kind of move that good franchises make, not in panic, but in preparation. Still, this is David Njoku we're talking about. A guy who's given everything to Cleveland, who's been through the storms, who wants to be here. And for a fan base that's been through its share of heartbreak, letting go of a guy like that isn't easy. So here's where we land. This isn't about love or loyalty. This is about timing, value, and vision. And what happens next, whether the Dolphins call and whether Berry picks up, could tell us more about the future of the Browns than any training camp headline or preseason game ever could. Now it's your turn. Browns Nation, do you trust Andrew Berry to make the right call? Would you trade David Njoku if the price is right?